of the Peaceful Path. It is such a pleasure, such an honor to have you here today. And I feel truly blessed to be in the presence of such beautiful people. Thank you so much. Good boy. The cat just suddenly sat down after running around non-stop, so that's good. We're off to a good start. Welcome. I want to say hi to you all. This is going to be a good episode. I'm excited for this one. Topic that we could all benefit from. We could all benefit from this topic. Hello, Kathy. So lovely to have you here as always with us. Good morning to you all. Good afternoon to you, Suzanne. Thanks for being here as always. G'day, Catherine. Lovely to see you as always. Thanks for being here. Hello, Elizabeth. Hi, Lois. Lovely to see you from the UK. Nice to see you again. Hey, Stephanie. G'day. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being here, my friends. And I appreciate your company. Again, this is a topic that we can all relate to, basically breaking bad habits and the role of mindfulness in doing so. And this is a very, very important, sort of thing to encounter because that we all have unhealthy habits in our lives, and we'll talk a little bit more about habits in a moment, but habits come with good and bad, right? And, many of us feel, or at least know, that we are held back by those unhealthy habits that really just, in a way distract us from focusing on our goals and, from achieving what we want to achieve. So we'll talk about that in a second. Good morning, Janine. Hi, Charity. Lovely to have you all here with me today. I'm absolutely honored to be in the presence of such beautiful individuals. I appreciate your presence, and it's good to be back with you guys streaming. Hey, Joyce. Streaming with you guys. Oh, good morning, TM. Lovely to see you. So let's begin. Let's begin this this talk. Last week we had to cancel our talk because I had an ear infection, but I can assure you my ears are all good now. No excuses. It will go on. So, habits. Now, habits are one of those things that we can, that are both positive and negative, right? There are good habits and there are bad habits. What are good habits, for example? A good habit can be taking your vitamins on a daily basis. Meditating can be a good habit. Brushing your teeth can be a good habit. Eating healthy, exercising, those are good habits, and those are habits we want to maintain in our lives. But there are also bad habits. There are unhealthy habits that can hold us back and that can really get us caught up in this loop. And the downside of these unhealthy habits is that we become very dependent on them. And when we become dependent on a certain habit, which basically we acquire these habits because we want to feel a certain way. When we become dependent on these habits, we basically, when we become dependent on these habits, we don't know how to do things without those habits. We basically need them. There's not much we can do about that. So, is that your mic or an Aussie insect? I certainly hope there are no Aussie insects around here. So let's do a little sound check before we begin, because I don't want the whole stream to be bad. Is the sound okay? Is the sound buzzing for everyone or for anyone in the stream aside from Lois? All good on your end, Suzanne. Okay, cool. So, okay, all good. Lois, I'm not quite sure why it's doing that for you. Maybe try refreshing, see how you go. Otherwise, let's just pretend that you're in the Australian outback and that there are Aussie insects around, and I think that could also add to the ambience of the of the episode. So, but that said, what I just said, habits are actually a very important part of our lives, and they become important because of the because our minds over time, over evolution of humankind, have evolved into including habits into our lives. 45% of everyday behaviors are habits, right? So half the time we're actually engaging in habits. We're doing the same thing over and over. And why do these habits exist, right? Well, habits are in a way there. They are in our lives because they originally are the brain's way of conserving energy and resources, right? So basically when we acquire these habits like doing things automatically, exactly. And there are a million different habits that we do. We'll talk about these different types of habits. But basically our brain, from the time of cavemen and cavewomen, is always trying to find ways for us to do things more efficiently, right? So when we so we can conserve energy and time and do things in the most efficient way possible. So over time, we have created this thing called a habit loop, okay? Now, a habit loop is divided into 3 parts, and each time that we engage in a habit, we go through a new habit loop, right? It starts with the trigger or the cue, and then the action or the routine, and then the reward, right? So something triggers us to want to, or cues us to engaging in the habits, and then we engage in whatever the activity is, and then we receive a reward from doing it. And that happens over and over, and it happens for a variety of different reasons. The habit loop is basically very multifaceted in so many ways. There are a variety of reasons, right? There are habits that we engage in because we want to, right? We enjoy the habit. There are habits that we engage in because we need a distraction, right? They help distract us from certain things in life, or because we're trying to resist certain things, right? Pain, anxiety, or because we need to do things, right? Different types of habits. But what triggers habits in general? What really causes that initial trigger? Well, think about it. In many cases, I think one of the biggest triggers of habits, I'm speaking about unhealthy habits, would be anxiety, anger, when you're hungry, when you're lonely, when you're tired. Those are the kind of things that may resurface unhealthy habits. Now, what role does mindfulness play in this? And by the way, let's have a quick look. So Fatima was saying, this topic is very precious to me. I make many mistakes in this area because I tend to procrastinate. Yeah, and look, procrastinating is also an unhealthy habit that we tend to engage in as human beings. So, I mean, there are so many negative consequences to having these happen to us. So what role does mindfulness, does meditation play in us helping alleviate this loop of habits? Well, firstly, and by the way, at the end of this talk, which won't go for too long, we'll do a 5-minute meditation. I'll show you a 5-minute meditation for us to recognize and tackle those habits, right? So for example, what is mindfulness? Before we even discuss how mindfulness, which by the way is a habit as well, can be created into a habit, how mindfulness can help bring more awareness to those behaviors, to those activities or habits that have become automated in a very unconscious way, because most habits are unconscious, right? We don't even realize they're happening. So if you are a smoker, for example, the first time you would have smoked a cigarette, you would have puffed a cigarette, it would have made you would have experienced anxiety. You pull out a cigarette, you smoke it, it reduces the anxiety, you feel good. The next time you feel anxiety, you pull it out, You smoke again, reduce the anxiety, and then it's unconscious. You're not thinking about what you're doing. You just suddenly know that, okay, I'm feeling the anxiety. That's the trigger, that's the cue. Pulling out the cigarette, that's the action, smoking it. And the alleviation of anxiety is the reward, okay? And what is happening in this moment is the exact opposite of mindfulness. Again, it's the habit loop, right? So what mindfulness, the role that mindfulness plays is breaking so you remember the habit loop comprises of 3 different points within the loop. And the role of mindfulness is to break any one of those 3 points. Once you break any one of those 3 points within the loop, you break the habit. Let's see what Lois is saying, because everyone's responding. Habits can also be very difficult for someone who gets bored easily. It's so difficult to get the task into a habit for the first few times. Yes, exactly. And as I was saying to you before, one of the main triggers of habits is boredom, right? Boredom, anxiety, hunger, fatigue. And so boredom is one of those 4. And it's very, very important to recognize that. But when you are in a very capable state of mindfulness, when you understand mindfulness, when you engage in mindfulness on a regular basis, consistent basis, you can easily break those invisible, unconscious habit loops. So basically, what really gives you the edge when you practice mindfulness on a negative basis, on a regular basis, is that mindfulness helps you recognize those actions. It helps you become more aware of what's going on, right? So, for example, again, we'll go back to smoking as the example, because it's a very common habit that a lot of people unfortunately get sucked into. For example, you go through that loop again. You feel this moment of anxiety, pull out a cigarette, you smoke it, don't realize what's going on, and the desire to achieve this outcome outweighs everything else. It outweighs the fact that you may be passing the smoke on to other people. It outweighs the fact that you may be killing yourself. Outweighs the fact that you may be smoking, smelling like a chimney. But when you practice mindfulness, you pull out your cigarette, right? Because now you're mindful. Now you've meditated on a regular basis. Everything that you do is done with a purpose. You're experiencing the now. You're experiencing the present. You pull out the cigarette. And even before, okay, let me just quickly, okay, let's see. Can I ask a stupid question? Sorry, how can mindfulness help with habits where meditation might not be so? I'll answer that question soon, Lois, I promise you, okay? So mindfulness can't be a habit. Let me explain it all. Sit back, we've got another 10 minutes. And if I haven't answered your question by the end of the 10-minute mark, then I will gladly answer it if you remind me, okay? So, 2 ways mindfulness can help you overcome this habit loop. The first way is that when you engage in mindfulness, you really do notice what's going on in that moment, okay? So you notice, you start becoming aware of your emotions. Again, what is it that triggers those habits, those negative habits or unhealthy habits? Emotions. In most cases, it's usually anxiety, boredom, depression, whatever it is that triggers those. So when you practice meditation and mindfulness on a regular basis, your body becomes very honest with how it feels. Right? That's what mindfulness is. It's about experiencing how you feel without judgment, experiencing your surroundings without judgment, okay? So you recognize this fear, this anxiety that is lurking through your body. And then you experience it, you notice it, you handle it. Now, again, it sounds counterintuitive to face the anxiety, but most of the time the reason we get sucked into those negative habits is because we're trying to run away from those feelings. When you're smoking a cigarette, when you jump on social media, when you eat cheeseburgers or whatever it is you want to eat to escape that feeling of that certain feeling, you're doing it because you're trying to escape that emotion. Mindfulness trains you to look into yourself and tackle this emotion, to identify this emotion, to, with a sense of curiosity, immerse yourself and examine this emotion. And when you do examine it, when you do face it, it becomes a lot more evident in your mind. So that's one of the habits that mindfulness gets you in, okay? So it breaks that initial pattern, right? You feel the anxiety, it sort of breaks the trigger a little bit. So now I feel the anxiety, I'm tackling it, I'm dealing with it. But then you pull out the cigarette anyway. You pull it out, you light it up, but then you start realizing that, oh yuck, actually the taste is not that great, because you're becoming more aware of what you're doing. You start thinking a little bit more about other people, and then you become a little bit more aware of what you're doing, okay? But really, when you are meditating on a regular basis, you become more in control of how you feel. Now, let me just quickly go back. So firstly, Lois, that is not a stupid question. It's a great question. How can mindfulness help with habits where meditation might not be so effective then? Well, they go hand in hand, okay? So mindfulness can help with habits in the sense that it helps you become more aware of what you're doing, as I was saying to you before, okay? And they both help in different ways, right? So mindfulness helps you with habits in the sense that you become more aware, you become more conscious, right? You don't get caught up with whatever it is. And meditation helps you in the sense that you also become more aware of your emotions. You become more able to control your emotions and not get caught away. So they work hand in hand, and they help in different ways, but ultimately they sort of do the same thing, if that makes sense. Okay, so if you have any questions, if you have any more questions, let me know. But let's see. But yeah, mindfulness is basically very, very important. As I was saying to you, it brings awareness. It brings awareness to those behaviors, and it sort of breaks this pattern of automaticity or of unconsciousness, and you become more aware, more conscious of those habits. Remember what I was saying to you before. The biological and emotional emotions that hinder habit change are what mindfulness helps us manage, right? Like hunger, right? When you feel hungry and you can't control yourself. Basically, mindfulness, meditation helps you, focus more and be more mindful of what you're eating. Anger, anxiety, meditation helps you alleviate that. Boredom, all these things that may trigger those senses, meditation can help us with. So first of all, you have to be willing to break your unhealthy habits. No, yes, absolutely, you have to be willing, and that's the thing. And look, let's move on to the next topic now, is how we can become more willing to change those habits, unhealthy habits. But yes, the first and most important thing is you have to be willing. You have to. No one can force you to break those habits. You have to make a conscious decision to want to break those habits. That's where mindfulness comes into the picture. Mindfulness helps you realize that you're stuck in this loop, right? So when you're meditating on a regular basis, when you're very mindful of what you're doing, it's a lot easier for you to step out of this. It's a lot easier for you to notice that you're in this whole loop. So for example, Fatima's bringing procrastination. If you are procrastinating on a regular basis, if you do not engage in mindfulness, you get caught up in these. You have no control over how you're feeling. You have no control over your emotions, over your patterns. You're caught up. Just like, and the meditation, in many ways, the very essence of meditation is realizing when you do get caught up in those thoughts and then going back to being in the present moment. And when you create this habit over quite a while, over a period of time, it becomes a part of your life. So then you start realizing that, oh damn, I've already had my third cigarette now. Mindfulness, Suzanne, also allows you to realize, you become more aware, you become more curious, you become more in control. It helps you build a sense of self-discipline. We'll go back to social media, or we can go back to smoking as an example, right? So when you're smoking on a regular basis, mindfulness helps you notice the harmful effects that it brings you back to earth that may be accompanied by smoking. Let's see, Lois is saying, so for example, if I wanted to kick ass a workout routine, how will mindfulness help me from procrastinating and boredom? How will mindfulness help me go from procrastinating and boredom to exercising? Okay, that's a good question. So you've got to ask yourself, what is it about procrastination and boredom that inhibits you from exercising? Okay? So boredom is an unconscious emotion that in many cases may take over, right? Procrastination is another form of denial. There's another form of avoidance, right? When you are procrastinating, what are you actually doing? If you think about it, when you are procrastinating, you're trying to avoid yourself from recognizing what you need to do. You know, the very fact that you even considered exercising, you understand how important exercising is, but you also are aware of what it takes to exercise. It takes work. So procrastination is in many ways used as a means for you to just avoid that, right? It's like a shield. It's a mask. So it's very important to recognize that. So we procrastinate because we're trying to neglect those emotions. Those emotions being, okay, I need to exercise. It's going to make me feel better. And what mindfulness teaches you, what meditation teaches you, is to acknowledge those feelings of boredom, to avoid those feelings of boredom, to avoid those innate needs to go and do things that are important for you, is the antithesis of mindfulness and meditation. So when you meditate and become mindful on a regular basis, and this is one of those things you can truly experience when you do it on a regular basis, right? When you meditate regularly, you become more aware of when you are procrastinating. Now, this is not something that can happen overnight, but when you create this initial spark of being aware of the fact that you are procrastinating, and each time you do it, becomes more and more, you become more and more conscious of you doing it. Eventually, it gets to a point where you just procrastinate less and less. Step by step, exactly. So there should be a goal at the end to break an ill pattern. Yes, there should be a goal at the end to break an ill pattern, for sure. And the goal could best be achieved through mindfulness, right? So if, say, for example, you are smoking, or no, you're procrastinating, okay? You're procrastinating. You know that you need to go for this walk around the block. You know that you need to eat healthy. You know that you need to step out of the house and socialize with people that mean a lot to you and create meaningful connections, or even just go for a mindful walk in a garden. You know that you have to do these things, but you keep procrastinating. You can actually set a goal. You can set a goal in 30 days from now and say, look, every day I'm just going to start small, okay? And I'm going to start small. I'm just going to take small steps each time. And when I do procrastinate, I'll call myself out and I'll become more mindful, okay? When I do procrastinate, and when I do realize that I'm in this loop of procrastinating, just step out for a minute and realize. I mean, realizing is a very, very important tool. It sets you, it really does put you ahead. And again, this is just it's like meditation. It's akin to, if you're meditating and engaging and practicing mindfulness on a regular basis, it's like going to the gym. If you go to the gym and you're exercising, you're getting better at getting stronger, you're getting fitter. Ultimately, the big picture, you'll basically perform better at sports or, in life or whatever it is. And same with mindfulness. The more you engage in mindfulness and meditation, the easier it'll be for you to step out of this loop. Remember, The whole premise of meditation is recognizing that you're caught up in a loop. So you basically, you begin establishing a habit of being caught up in this loop of either procrastination, of smoking, and moment by moment, bit by bit, you slowly step out of it. Well, yeah, not many people do, Suzanne. Not many people do, but it's a very important. I mean, procrastination ultimately is an unhealthy habit, right? And mindfulness is ultimately a very healthy habit. So you, in a way, in a sense, you're replacing one habit with another. Lois is saying, sometimes just forcing myself to just get the hell on with it works. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's one way to do it as well. Recognizing that you are procrastinating, you're heading into this path of procrastinating, just going, okay, no, I'm stopping now. And just that's another way to do it, right? Sometimes it's a bit hard, like you're stuck in this rut, you know, and it's a lot harder sometimes to step out of that. So yeah, that's, do you have any questions? But another thing about mindfulness and meditation is that it helps you see that you have a choice, right? It teaches you that you have a choice. And when you do have a choice, you can actually make those different, more healthy, conscious decisions rather than healthy ones. You can actually choose, right? The difference between someone who meditates on a regular basis and does not meditate on a regular basis, the person who engages in regular mindfulness can recognize the choice, can recognize the difference between a healthy habit and an unhealthy habit. So don't get me wrong, habits are a big part. As I said to you before, we've evolved into creating habits because they help us conserve energy. But so don't beat yourself up if there are unhealthy habits that you still have in your life that are holding you back. Just understand that that's just part of our neurology. But remember, well, I don't think I've taught you this before, but when we first started evolving as humans, the most primal, basic humans called, they're initially referred to as System 1 humans, right? Also known as the reptilian brain humans. So as humans, we have reptilian brains, we have mammalian brains. The very, very first, most beginner humans there were 100,000 years ago, we didn't really evolve. Our prefrontal cortex, which is a System 2, wasn't really evolved back then. So everything that happened was based on instincts. Everything that happened was just based on instincts and habits, and we'll just react. And then we developed our prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex, which is basically in charge of logic and reasoning, that's a more upgraded version of our brain. It's the newest part of our brain. And the prefrontal cortex basically allows us to step out of these habits. When we meditate, we strengthen the prefrontal cortex. When we're anxious, interestingly, our prefrontal cortex shuts down, and then we create those bad habits again, right? So meditation, mindfulness can help us be more in touch with our prefrontal cortex, make more logical, more rational decisions as opposed to just being impulsive. And let's see what Ruth has to say. Putting things off is more tiring, as it's like unfinished business in your brain. Much better to just get the thing done. 100%, Ruth. 100%. More peace of mind, as TM says, to get things done. Yes, absolutely. Suzanne saying, we're all going to be so healthy, Alex. Love it. We're learning so much from you. Thanks. It's just a matter of putting it into 100%. Thank you so much for saying that, Suzanne. I really appreciate it. So, yeah. In a nutshell, mindfulness is a key habit changer, right? Because it brings awareness. It brings awareness to the behaviors that we are, unhealthy behaviors that we engage in. And again, it breaks this cycle of automation in a nutshell. Okay? Let's see. Let's see some of the comments. Okay, can't see any more comments, so we're all good. Now what we'll do is, I'm thinking we can do a little meditation, okay? Just a little meditation to teach you how to implement what we've just discussed. I'll give you 30 seconds if you have any questions so I can answer them. But if something I may have not covered or not have said, it may not be clear, then feel free to ask me any questions. I am more than happy to answer them. But we'll start a meditation. Okay, great, no questions. Beautiful. Very smart group. Okay. So, as I do with every episode of The Peaceful Path, we discuss a topic, we workshop it, we understand it, and then we finish off with a meditation. We finish off with a meditation that can basically give you more knowledge and understand how to implement mindfulness in a better way into your life. Okay, Lois has a quick question, then we'll move on to the meditation. That'll be the last question. Lois saying, so would you say mindfulness is being in touch with your emotions and meditation is being more rational and calmer? Look, I'll say this. I'll phrase it the way I think it should be phrased. Mindfulness is basically acknowledging your surroundings, right? Acknowledging what's going on without judgment, okay? You're just acknowledging it. Meditation, on the other hand, which falls, by the way, under the umbrella of mindfulness, and I'm glad that you asked that, Lois. It's a great question because there is a distinction between the two. Meditation is an activity that trains you to focus on something and recognize when on something. It can be a mantra, it can be your breath, it can be your surroundings, but you're focusing on one thing at a time, right? It can be for a visualization, and then being aware of when your mind gets distracted, and then you just go back to that activity. It creates this habit of knowing when your mind gets distracted. Like, that's meditation. Mindfulness is just being very aware, not only of your surroundings, but of your activities, of what you do. For example, if you're sipping on a hot chocolate, right? I caught up with a friend on Friday. It was Friday, and he had this. He was like, "Come over. I have this thing called ceremonial cacao. I don't know if you guys have heard of ceremonial cacao, but it's it is the purest. My pleasure, Lois. It is the purest form of cacao that you can get, and it's meant to have antioxidants. It's meant to make you feel very, very good. Like, it's meant to make you feel happy, but without the effects of caffeine. But it's just normal cacao. Hasn't been processed at all. And tribes in the Amazons, they use this ceremonial cacao to just bring out the best versions of themselves. So I came over and he just put together this, and it was a whole ceremony. It was amazing. And to me, that was mindfulness, it was like a block of cacao, and he just scraped it, he grated it into the cup, into the bowl, into the pot, and then heated it up, melted it, added the soy milk and stirred it. And then we just both said things that we're grateful for. And we drank it, and it was very bitter, but at the same time, I was just trying to enjoy the bitterness. And it was just an amazing experience. That is mindfulness, right? You're basically engaging in the whole activity from the moment you add the cacao into the pot, and then you melt it, you smell it coming out of the pot. You get excited for it. You notice that you're getting excited. You notice that you're salivating a little. You notice your heart's beating a little faster because you're excited. You notice that, now it's time to pour it into the cup. Okay, you notice that you need the milk. Then you hold the cup and you notice the cup's warm, and you experience that, right? And then you engage in the ritual, which involves gratitude. You think of, share what you're grateful for. That's mindfulness. Then you take your first sip and you experience what it is that is going through your mind and body. You experience how your heartbeat may rise a little bit. You experience this feeling of excitement, and you soak that in for as long as you can. That is mindfulness. Now, the opposite of that is grabbing it, sipping it, enjoying it. And before you know it, it's over and you're like, oh, damn, it's over. I didn't really get to, oh, when's our next one? Then you just jump and pour a new cup of hot chocolate or drink it excessively. Whereas if you do it in a mindful way, you're experiencing it to its fullest. You don't really need to do it again. You're truly enjoying and immersing yourself in it. It's a great habit to get into, and I highly encourage it. One of the most basic ways to experience mindfulness is through food, either through eating or through drinking certain foods. So yeah, even a shower can result in mindfulness. You know, when showering, you can just enjoy the water just flowing through your body, the heat or even the cold if you like cold showers, and that's what it is basically, right? It's just truly immersing your senses and appreciating everything without judgment in that moment and being honest with how your body reacts to it. There's no such thing as a good or a bad reaction. There's only we interpret it as good or bad. We're just experiencing, we're acknowledging how our body's reacting to it in its rawest form. Can mindfulness be experienced with past memories? Absolutely, Suzanne. Absolutely. Mindfulness can be experienced with past memories, but there are good ways and bad ways. So that's a great question as well. So when you experience past memories, you can experience them, and then you can recognize how they make you feel. You can just go through your body and experience how it makes you feel in your body. Now, the wrong way to do it is getting caught up in those past memories, getting caught up in these loops. And you, before you know, it's been 20 minutes and you're just caught up in this past memory. You've experienced 15 different emotions going through your body, and you haven't achieved anything. You haven't learned anything. You've just been through this roller coaster of emotions. And so that's how you do not experience past memories. But a mindful way to experience past memories, recognize the past memory, be it good or bad. Notice how it makes you feel. Explore that feeling. Learn from that feeling. See how that feeling makes you feel, and maybe even just you can have a conversation with yourself about this feeling, and then you just move on. And then once you've recognized this feeling, once it's become a part of this moment, you can either go back to the memory and just maybe immerse yourself in a different experience that is associated with that memory. Maybe move on with your day. Maybe pour yourself a hot chocolate, ceremonial cacao. Look it up, ceremonial cacao. And then drink that. Maybe go for a walk and experience the birds, the wrens and the magpies or whatever it is. So there are different ways for you to experience those memories, but yet you can, absolutely. You can experience the past and the future in a very mindful way. There is not really anything wrong with the past and the future. The problem with it that leads to depression or anxiety is that we get caught up in them and we don't know how to get out of it. We don't even realize we're caught up in it. And that happens thousands of times a day. Thousands. Think about it. We think 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day. Half of those thoughts are the same thoughts over and over and over again. And 25% of those thoughts are either past or present thoughts. I mean, no, actually most of them are past and present, right? Past or future thoughts, right? So we're always thinking about the past or the future, right? Which is no surprise to why humans are constantly in a state of anxiety or depression, constantly. And when you jump on social media, it doesn't help. You're not really making yourself feel better, even though the reward at the end feels like it's going to help you feel better. You may experience a chuckle or a moment, but it's not, because ultimately what you're doing is you're masking this emotion. You're masking it. You're not facing it. And remember, I use an analogy that is true, actually. In the United States, you've got the buffaloes, which is a huge symbol of America. And when there's a storm, right, most animals run away from the storm. And the storm eventually catches up with them. So it doesn't matter. It just catches up with them and they get caught up in the storm like everyone else. But the buffalo, when there's a huge tornado or storm or whatever it is, they will run towards the storm until they just pass through the storm. And the storm just surpasses them. And then they can just enjoy it. They don't have to worry about the storm anymore. Everyone else is running away from the storm. Everyone else is hiding from the storm. It's going to catch up to them eventually. But the buffalo runs into the storm until it's over. And then they can enjoy life. And that's how it is with mindfulness. That is how it is with meditation, is that we we face the storm, we face it, we learn how to confront it, whereas most people run away from these emotions, anxiety, anger, depression, whatever it is that is overtaking you, right? You have to face it. That's the way to do it. My absolute pleasure, Suzanne. My absolute pleasure. It is my pleasure. Thank you, Kathy. Fatima, when you are mindful, you'll remember with details what you've done. 100%. When you are in a state of mindfulness, you remember everything. And that's why we forget a lot of things, right? You know, I had a conversation with a friend yesterday and we talked and we had a segue and he was like, wait, how did we get to that point? I was like, oh, good point. You know, because we you know, you get caught up in things, you're not really mindful of every little moment. But when you are mindful, when you practice mindfulness, not on a radical level, but on a very balanced level, you start recognizing what you're doing step by step. And it's incredible. You remember every little thing that you do. Lois is saying, like someone said, it's not the circumstances, but it's our reaction to them. Exactly. There's nothing more that I need to add to that. That's exactly right. Kathy's saying, we do not stay in the present. That is a big problem for most of us. Exactly, Kathy. Because most of us, it's not that we don't want to be in the present. It's firstly not appealing to people because they don't know how to enjoy the present, right? We're not taught to enjoy the present. I mean, we are when we're kids. We naturally enjoy the present, you know? When you play cowboys and Indians, or when you do, you know, play with your friends, you know, tea parties or whatever it is you do as a kid, you know, you're enjoying the present, right? You're enjoying this moment. But then when we grow up as adults, we start avoiding the present more. I don't know, maybe we've had bad experiences and we start getting caught up in things, and that's where bad habits form, right? Because we need a distraction from those bad emotions. So again, the running away from emotions is, again, the antithesis of mindfulness. We have to learn to face them. And that's how bad habits are formed, is when we don't face our problems, when we don't confront anxiety, when we don't confront anger or depression. You know, and I've fallen for that too. You know, I've become addicted to things in my life too. You know, when you're experiencing moments of pure anxiety, when I have in the past, I'll just go and play a game on my phone or eat food or whatever it is. And then you're never really dealing with this. You're never learning how to overcome it. You become dependent on this one thing. So let's see. Thanks, Charity. The buffalo analogy. Yeah, it's a good one. Thank you. Fatima's asking, do you think it could help people with severe memory handicap? Oh, 100%, Fatima. So I think I know that meditation and mindfulness, one of the key benefits, if you were to ask me what are the top 3 benefits of meditation, I would say improved memory would be one of the top 3 that will come to my mind. It scientifically has been proven that meditation improves your memory. And you have to do it on a regular basis, of course, right? It's not a pill that improves your memory. You have to practice meditation on a regular basis. And when you do, your memory gets better. You know, I mean, scientifically speaking, it actually improves your hippocampus in the brain. The hippocampus in the brain is actually what governs our memory and learning. So if meditation, based on Harvard studies by Sarah Lazar of Harvard University, if meditation and mindfulness, Fatima, and mindfulness as well, help the hippocampus grow, then by definition, your memory improves as well. So, and that's because we can talk about, actually, let's leave that for next week. Let's talk about meditation and memory. I want to explain the mechanics of how meditation helps improve memory. We'll leave that for next week because I think that is that is a whole new topic. And I'm going to change to next week's topic to that because I really want to talk about that. Suzanne, mindfulness in everyday life does not happen automatically. We have to remind ourselves continuously and be aware. 100%, Suzanne, 100%. 100%. We have to constantly remind ourselves. That's what mindfulness is all about. Getting to the habit of reminding ourselves, checking in and being awareness. Okay, I need to go soon. So let's begin this meditation. I could use some memory improvement. We could all use some memory improvement, TM, 100%. Yeah. Okay, let's begin this. We'll do a quick 5-minute meditation, okay? For those of you who've never meditated with me before, this is your chance to just enjoy it's just something a little bit different, okay? Don't worry. You don't have to be on a spiritual plane or anything like that. You just enjoy it for what it is, and you will notice if you're meditating with me for the very first time that your mind will wander a lot. You'll just constantly be thinking of things, even things that may be from this talk. And when that happens, do not be hard on yourself. Just gently recognize that that's happening. Remember, this is all about creating the habit of recognizing habits, okay? So recognize that this pattern is happening, and when it does happen, that's a bicep curl. And then you go back to your breath or to whatever we're doing, okay? So don't be discouraged by the thoughts. We think 50,000 thoughts a day. It is perfectly normal for you to think while we're trying to meditate. So when that happens, you go back to your meditation. The second thing you need to remember is don't have any expectations. Just enjoy the meditation for what it is, okay? And we'll do this every week, 5-minute meditation with me. And if you are not part of Insight Timer, you can join the Insight Timer app. And then you can check out, I've got a lot of meditations that are pre-recorded on Insight Timer. And I've got the next 4 days, I've got lives set up for you. So we'll do live meditations on Insight Timer. So join the app so you can be a part of this. LS, you're absolutely welcome. Thank you so much for your comment. Thank you so much. Okay, let's begin this meditation. I'm going to ask from you now to find yourself seated comfortably in a very straight, with your back straight, upright, on a comfortable seat. And I just want you, before you even close your eyes, I just want you to notice how you feel today. I want you to recognize any emotions that may be running through your body. Just notice how your body feels. Is there any anxiety, any tension, discomfort? Just take note of it. I'd like you to take a deep breath in through your nose and slowly exhale. Just relax your muscles as you breathe out. And in your own time, when you fully exhaled, again, close your eyes and go back to your body. I want you to recognize how you're feeling right now and label whatever emotion is going through your body. If you're feeling anxious, just recognize that emotion. If you're feeling angry or worried or depressed, I want you to recognize and label this emotion for now. That's the first step. And then when you've done this, I want you to explore the feelings that are accompanied by this emotion. Just explore where in the body this emotion expresses itself. And when you do identify this body part from which the emotion is making itself noticed, then just focus your attention on this feeling. When you do so, something incredible happens. When you do confront those emotions, when you do focus on them and recognize them, in many ways, you disempower them because now you have recognized it. You're dealing with it. It may not seem like you're dealing with it in this moment, but you are. Merely by recognizing the emotion. Keep exploring your body. There's so much to explore in your body. Are you feeling restless? Are you feeling unmotivated? Just explore that. And you'll find that your mind now will be distracted. Those emotions may lead to thoughts. And those thoughts may be of the past or of the future. And that's perfectly normal. When those thoughts arise, recognize the thoughts. You may even, for a few little moments, observe the thought. And you will notice that by observing this thought as a third party, like a scientist observing a subject, when you observe this thought, it starts to dissipate. Notice what happens when you recognize this thought consciously. And then when you have noticed this thought, when the thought has dissipated, go back to your body. Go back to noticing how your body feels. Go back to confronting those emotions. And this thought, your thoughts may reappear 100 times throughout this 5-minute meditation. And that doesn't matter. That's perfectly fine and acceptable, because that is what thoughts do. That's what the mind does. There's no use being hard on your mind for what it's doing, for what it does best. When you notice those thoughts, the key is to just be aware, to be conscious, and then go back to your body. Go back to noticing any tension in the body, any moments or feelings of emptiness that may be present. Well done. Honestly, that's great. Take a deep breath in through your nose, as deep as you can. And slowly exhale. When you fully exhale, take note of your body again. Notice if there's any tension. Relax your jaw and your entire body. I want you to now just notice the pattern of your breathing, the natural rhythm of your breath. Just observe that for now. And again, thoughts will be coming in, arising, resurfacing. Just take note of those thoughts patiently, in an accepting manner. Observe the thoughts. Label the thought if you may. Then go back. Go back to the breath. The idea isn't to focus on the breath for as long as you can. The idea is to notice when those thoughts arise unconsciously. And they will arise unconsciously. When you do notice that, that's a huge win, because you are fundamentally creating a new habit of noticing unconscious behaviors arising. Just keep focusing on your breath and being aware of when thoughts arise. Notice the sensation of the breath now, flowing in through your nostrils and out through your nostrils. Just explore the raw sensations. We're almost there. You're doing very well. I'm not going to be there now to remind you. I want you to see if you can remind yourself. Great. When you're ready, go back to your body. Notice how your body feels. Are there any changes in the feelings that are accompanied by any sensations, or by the sensations that are accompanied by the feelings? I want you to recognize anything that your body may be experiencing now. Identify and recognize whatever emotions are currently governing your state. And then just keep focusing on those emotions. Just like the buffalo running into the storm, you are curiously and patiently confronting those emotions. And moving forward, I want you to set a new precedent, a new goal, a new standard of confronting emotions when you experience them. When you experience hunger, boredom, anxiety, depression, I want you to do exactly what you're doing now. Pause, set a timer for 5 minutes, and then identify the emotions, examine, witness, observe those emotions. Focus in on where they're coming from. There is a lot of power to that. When the 5-minute timer goes off, you will then reassess whether you want to engage in this unhealthy habit. Eating something bad, procrastinating, smoking, thinking negatively, whatever the habit may be. You won't need to anymore because you've already confronted this emotion. Take one deep breath in through your nose, as deep as you can. Slowly exhale, and you may gently open your eyes and welcome back your physical surroundings. And I want to thank you for doing this. And I hope this has helped you understand how you can tackle those triggers that may propel you to engage in certain activities. And I want to, just thank you for being here, all 23 of you. I really, truly appreciate you guys and love you and genuinely, I'm grateful for you. Let's quickly read the comments. So Lois is saying, I had to stop and open my eyes. I had a bereavement a few days ago and those emotions came out. It's still raw for me and I started to panic. That's okay. I understand. And it can be a very confronting experience. And, that happens a lot in meditation. We are faced with raw emotions that we may have masked over time. But when that happens, see if you can actually keep confronting those emotions, okay? And if you do feel like crying, cry. If you feel like shouting, shout, provided no one's sleeping next to you. But be honest with how you feel. Express those emotions, okay? Do not bottle them in. Emotions are fundamentally not necessarily good or bad, right? Emotions are emotions. We can't think that if we're feeling sad and we want to cry, that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It's just what our body needs in that moment. We may interpret it as bad, but it is what it is. So, thank you for saying that, Lois. I appreciate you saying that. Kathy, many thanks, Alex. Hugs and love to you. Thank you, Kathy. I really appreciate it. It is my absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for being here. Great session experience. Much appreciated. Thank you, Suzanne. I appreciate you. And I'm glad that you benefited from this session. Thanks, TM. I appreciate that. I'm very grateful for you too. Thank you so much. Thanks, Stephanie. I appreciate you saying that. Thanks for being here. You're welcome, Robin. Thank you. Fatima saying, I feel better now than I was before starting it. Well, that's a huge insight. Thank you so much for sharing that, Fatima. I'm so happy to hear that. Suzanne saying swearing makes you feel better too. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Swearing is a bad habit that we may get caught up in and that may make us feel better in the moment. But swearing, look, swearing is one of those things that you just have to be mindful of, naturally, some of us, it can be an outlet, right? But you just have to be mindful of where you're at and who you're with. If you're alone, then by all means, even then, you've got to be mindful because you don't want to create a habit of swearing. But yeah, it's one of those things. It is a habit that makes you feel better, but it may have an impact on the people around you, I guess. That's right, Joyce. Today's story is about breaking unhealthy habits. Crying is a great release, 100% TM, no doubt. Thank you, LS. I appreciate that. So thanks, guys. I'm just scrolled all the way down. Thanks, Janine. Grazie, Elisabetta. I'm glad to hear, Joyce. That's good. So thanks, guys. Thank you so much to all of you for being here with me in this session. I really enjoyed this. I hope you benefited from this meditation. I hope you grew from it and learned from it. And if you have any more questions, I'm happy to take them on. It's a very quick meditation, but very powerful and insightful. And I hope that you have not only benefited from this meditation in this moment, but also have learned how to implement meditation into your life in order to create the habit of breaking habits. Fatima, I'm ready to use mindfulness to overcome my procrastination. Yeah, Fatima, and that's you've made the first most important step is recognizing that you need the change, recognizing that you need and how you need to do things, and that's the first step. You see, most people don't even start this first step. Most people just don't even notice they're in the loop, right? So you've already made that first step, okay? So well done. Well done. And now you have to take action, meditate, do this. What we just did today, do it every day. 5 minutes, set a timer, and just listen to your body. Explore, recognize, and just confront whatever emotions you have. And you'll find that, it'll eventually, you become more aware of your emotions and less responsive to the emotions. So remember, it's the emotions that we feel that trigger the unhealthy habits that are created, right? Remember, we feel a negative emotion. It triggers us to engage in a habit. We do the habit. It makes us feel better. And then our brain thinks, oh, well, that made me feel better. Let's add it to our list of habits and we'll have that now as our new habit. And then the brain just adds it, right? Because the brain does that to help us survive, right? Because it wants to preserve energy, it wants to preserve time. So you need to now stop and understand that that habit may just temporarily help you. And the only way to help you overcome these negative emotions is by recognizing these negative emotions, being kind to yourself, meditating, doing something good, doing something that is healthy, okay? You're welcome, Lois. Thank you. Joyce, your insight was very helpful today, Alex. When will the new website? Oh, thank you, Joyce. I appreciate it. I'm not quite sure about the new website. I haven't really been in touch, but I'm sure that if you ask John, he'll give you an answer, or John or Stefan. Thank you, Elisabetta. So, guys, I really enjoyed this. Appreciate it. Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate it. Thank you, Suzanne. I appreciate you. Guys, love you guys. Thank you. I really enjoyed this session. This is one of my favorite ones. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of it. If you have any questions, then you can, but I think this will conclude our session. So, love you. I'll speak to you soon, and I'll see you tomorrow. For those who are joining me in my live, we've got a live meditation tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll see you next week in our next session, which, thanks to Fatima, we'll be talking about meditation and memory, which is something I'm excited to talk to you about. So yeah, I know it says a different, I'm going to change the title now, but yeah, we'll talk about that next week. Thanks, guys. Love you. Speak soon. Have a great day, everyone. Well, how do I end this? There we go. See you guys.